All right. Good afternoon, folks. I wish we were gathering on for better issues. Are mics coming up okay? Yours is fine too? Yes? Okay. All right. My name is Suleiman Adan, Suleiman, last name Adan, Adan. I'm the Deputy Executive Director here at CAIR, Minnesota. Thank you all for coming here on such short notice. We called this press conference because over the last few days we have seen a sharp rise in threats, harassments, and openly hostile rhetoric directed specifically at the Somali American Minnesotan community here in the great state of Minnesota. Words like garbage being used by the President of the United States to describe immigrants, specifically Somali immigrants, are not political drama. This language has consequences, travels into our classrooms, our mosques, our workplaces, and our neighborhoods. It creates fear, it emboldens extremists, and it puts real people in danger. The Minnesota's Somali community is a vital part of the state. We are your teachers. We are your nurses, we're your educators, we are your students, we're your truck drivers. We help this city, this great city and this great state run. With that, I want to begin by introducing our first speaker. We have a number of speakers with us today. Our Director of Civil Rights, Alex Shaw, will be joining us momentarily as well. I'll be introducing our first speaker, Mr. Jaylani Hussein, Executive Director of CAIR, Minnesota.
Jaylani Executive Director of CAIR Minnesota, Jaylani Hussein. We are here yet again after President Trump has now almost every single day targeted the Somali American community. In the past 24 hours, we have learned that there will be additional ICE agents targeting this particular community. We have, since this past 12 hours, heard from many of our community who are not only deeply concerned, but we have now seen individuals in our community recording interactions with ICE. We've already heard of, as expected and as announced before, U.S. citizens being asked about their citizenship. The Somali American community came to Minnesota around the early 1990s, like myself in 1993. We've been in this country for now 30 plus years. And we came here because of the great generosity of this great country and by a president, George Bush Sr., who opened the door for immigration from Somalia. This past 12 hours, we've seen the ICE increase. We are here today, this morning, reassuring our community about their rights. This is something that we have been telling the community. We are asking for predominantly our Somali American community as well as other immigrant communities to listen to this press conference today as we share some really critical basic information. Most of this information has been publicly available, but we are reminding people of these basic facts about their rights. I'm really honored to have one of the premier organizations that have been supporting the immigrant community here. There are many other organizations, obviously, but these are two phenomenal organizations, the Advocates for Human Rights and the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. They'll briefly talk more about some of those aspects and more. We are reminding our community that they have rights. We anticipate, or we have believe that Somali Americans in Minnesota particularly, over 90% are pathways to citizenship, and most of them are citizens of the United States. We also believe that, based on the 2020 census, over 51% of the Somali community were born here, which means the ICE raids will have significantly be actually used as a weapon to terrorize the community, but not actually even do what they claim to be doing, which is this. What I want to also remind to the larger community today, predominantly our allies and folks and neighbors, this is a moment for you to know how you can stand up and support your Somali American neighbor. One of those things is to understand that we are a nation of laws, and those laws must not be abused in any way. And among those laws is that if an ICE agent shows up to your private property, and particularly your home, you do not have to open the door. That is the first step you can do. And that is something we're reminding people to remain silent. We're also asking anyone who has an immigration status to ensure that they are in communication with their attorney, to take feedback and advice from both information, good information from immigrant rights organizations, but also to check in with their attorney, to also have a plan as it relates to this. For the other folks who are not dealing with immigration issue, this is a moment for you to stay guard, to support the community. If you see ICE agents, you have a neighbor, you can remind your neighbor about that and ensure them that they are aware of what's going on. We have seen that happen in many different situations. You know, we understand that humans are not illegal. You know, this nation came and was built on the land of stolen land from Native Americans who have been generous to welcome the first pilgrims to this country. We celebrated a holiday that has historically been skewed, not factual, but at least a holiday that acknowledges the existence of people coming here to the United States and that there were indigenous people here. With that said, I want people to know that the Somali American community is an extremely resilient community. We went through a lot of challenges. We have been targeted many times. But I want to echo a couple of things. This attack against the Somali community is an attack against black people. President Trump has a history of targeting black people throughout his history. This is no different. He's also attacking the Muslim community, and that's something he's also continued to do. The Somali American community being targeted in this manner is dangerous. We have already received from different people threats online. We also know that there are some form of agent provocateurs that are planning to come here. So this is a moment for Minnesotans to step up, not to be silent, to speak up, to share your frustration, to share your support for the Somali American community, to talk about the best things about our state and their relationship to the Somali American community, but also our other immigrant communities that are parcel of our state. We are not backing down. We're not afraid. And most importantly, for most Somalis, we're citizens. We're not going anywhere. This is our home. This is our country. And we're going to do everything possible to ensure that we fight for inclusion, just like many others in this country have fought, from Irish to Italians to other community members who are targeted severely in other immigration efforts, including our Japanese American community and others. So we're not giving up. We're not going anywhere. But we want to ensure people, instead of living in fear and hysteria, to know your rights. If you know your rights, you will be comfortable to know that you have things you could do to safeguard yourself in this moment. For the leaders, specifically for state political leaders, this is not a moment to score political points. This is a moment to ensure that you speak truth to this matter. Attacking a community for the acts of individuals is not only wrong and evil, but it's basically the best description of racism. And so anyone who engages in collective punishment of a community or a collective stereotyping of a community is the textbook definition of racism. And so therefore, we want people to know that. And I want to remind and welcome some of the GOP leaders who have said some positive things to continue to do that, to ensure that this attacks against the Somali community is reminded to President Trump. As also we mentioned, there are many Somalis who voted for President Trump. There are many Republican Somali Americans who are extremely disillusioned and frustrated with this attack against our community unfairly. And we are encouraging in this moment to see who will stand up for truth and who will be silent and for evil. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you so much, Jailani. Next, we're joined by one of the state's most respected human rights leaders. She spent years documenting abuse, supporting asylum seekers, and defending the rights of immigrant communities here in Minnesota and across the world. Please welcome Michelle Garnett McKenzie from the Advocates of Human Rights.
Thank you. Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, Garnett, G-A-R-N-E-T-T, McKenzie, M-C-K-E-N-Z-I-E. I am the Executive Director at the Advocates for Human Rights. Just want to reiterate how the rule of law is a fundamental tenet of human rights and of democracy, and it means individuals should be accountable for actions they commit, but no one should be punished for an act they did not commit. Group reprisals, as Jaylani said, violate basic human rights principles of due process and equal protection. They violate the things we hold most dear in this country. And the toxic rhetoric that's being weaponized right now against Somalis in Minnesota in particular, and in different ways against different groups right now, is truly advancing an agenda that is bent on ending America's commitment to humanitarian protections and to making sure that all immigrants and their families and their friends and their employers and their communities feel less, not more, secure in being part of the fabric of our country. That is the goal here, this opportunistic attack, and it is truly shameful. People do have rights, and those rights are guaranteed to persons under our Constitution, not to citizens under our Constitution. It's incredibly important and powerful. This is, again, the engine of our democracy, that each of us is individually protected from government abuse of power. I'm holding this red card, which is something that some of you may have seen out in our communities. They are an articulation for all of us, because we may not all know the constitutional rights that we hold in the moment that we need them, that you do not have to open the door. You can choose to not open the door unless there is a warrant for the government to enter your property. Without a warrant to enter your property, not just a warrant for you to be deported or arrested, but a warrant to enter your property, the government does not have a right to come into that property, and you can keep that door closed. You don't have to answer questions. We all have heard over and over on TV, you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you do say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Those are important rights that we hold, and you do not have to be bullied into or coerced into answering questions that the government asks. And you don't have to sign papers without knowing what they mean and agreeing to sign them. You have the right to an attorney when you are confronted with the government's power. These are fundamental rights that we all hold. And if we don't exercise those rights, they atrophy. So we have to hold those dear. As part of Minnesota's Immigration Legal Services community, and my colleague will talk more about this, I'm sure, we have been doing our best to make sure people know their rights and have access to the individual information that they need about their own case. Every case is different. As Jaylani said, there are thousands of U.S.-born, U.S. citizen people here who also identify with immigrant communities or who will be identified because of what they look like or sound like as an immigrant. One of the things that we can do and should do in this moment is also document when we as citizens are approached and asked for documentation. How many of us have walked down the street and been asked to show our papers? This is not what America is like. This is not what Minnesota is like. This is not what our streets are, what we expect in a free society. And when that starts happening, as it has begun already, based on what someone looks like or sounds like, we are in peril. So document those activities. Make sure those get reported up to someone who can help fight those in a court of law. I'm going to stop now and turn things over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. Our next speaker is someone whose organization works directly with families for navigating immigration challenges every single day. She leads a team that has been responding to increased fear, legal questions, and urgent calls for support. Please welcome Jennifer Powell, the Executive Director of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota.
Good morning. Jennifer Stoll, S-T-O-H-L, Powell, P-O-W-E-L-L. I'm the Executive Director of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. We are a nonprofit legal services organization serving low-income refugees and immigrants throughout Minnesota and refugees and asylees in North Dakota. We have offices throughout the state of Minnesota. I'm here today because we stand with and support our Somali clients and our Somali community and neighbors. I've worked with Somali clients for many years, helping them obtain their green cards after coming into the country as refugees, all the way through the process of becoming U.S. citizens. Our organization continues to serve immigrants from across the world and stand ready to provide immigration legal services together with our partners like the Advocates for Human Rights and other legal services organizations here in Minnesota. One of the things that our office does is provide resources to people who are detained. Detainees can call our office. Their family members can also call to seek information and will be provided with resources about their rights as someone who is detained. As Michelle shared, to obtain access to residence, they need a judicial warrant. It should also include the name of the person that they're looking for and the correct address. We've already talked about the right to remain silent, right to an attorney, and the right to refuse to sign anything till they talk to an attorney. Individuals who are observing also have the right to record at a safe distance what's happening. So those are some of the rights that clients have, the community has, and we stand ready with resources and information and to serve clients that are detained by ICE and in immigration removal or deportation proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we introduce our next speaker, our Director of Civil Rights, Alex Shaw, Michelle reminded me of this card. Jelani and I and others were at a coalition meeting last night with a number of, the room was packed as far as the eye could see. And someone had asked Jelani, you know, how many of these do we print out? Or how do we spread these? And Jelani just said, flood it. Early this morning, I was in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood with Senator Zainab Mohammed and other organizers, and all I could see were those same coalition members spreading these cards, and specifically in Somali and Oromo, flyers inside the Cedar Riverside Towers and in the University of Minnesota campuses. So information overload is just that, it's information overload. So with that, I'll want to introduce Alex Shaw, our civil rights attorney.
Thank you. It's Alex Shaw, A-L-E-C-S-H-A-W. I'm the Civil Rights Director here at CAIR Minnesota. As we've said before, we want the community to know that this is not a time for panic. This is a time to be aware, to be alert, and to be informed of your legal rights. As we know, the large majority of Somalis in Minnesota are legal permanent residents or citizens. That does not mean that that folks with legal status are, totally immune from interactions with federal law enforcement. We fully expect to see, citizens and lawful permanent residents to be harassed and detained by ICE agents if they're, surging into the Twin Cities. We heard from a U.S. citizen just yesterday who was detained. We've heard of people, being asked to show their passports on the street. I want to remind you, there's no law that says you need to carry your passport with you. There's no law that says you need to have a passport at all. That being said, if you have one and you're able to use that to prove your status, it could mean the difference between being let go and being detained for days or more. So I encourage everyone to learn and be familiar with their legal rights. We've got Know Your Rights materials on CAIR Minnesota's website. Advocates for Human Rights and the Immigrant Law Center have great resources as well. There's going to be further Know Your Rights trainings organized, and we'll make announcements about those. Thank you.
We'll take some questions.
Johnny, what do you think should happen next for those Somali residents who are undocumented or working through the legal status?
Just like we said, we want those individuals, if they have an attorney, to check in with their attorney, to understand the basic rules as far as how to keep themselves safe, and follow that advice, which is obviously we're talking about here today. For those individuals who do not have an attorney and this is the time that they need to seek legal counsel so that they can have the best information and they could be represented, and also they can be provided that support. So we obviously know the number of undocumented Somalis is very, very small. But even we also, and then we mentioned this a little bit, but these ICE raids means that this will also expand the vulnerability and the targeting of the larger undocumented population here in the Twin Cities, who are essential to everything that's happening to our state and our businesses. And so, so there's a possibility that we've heard of other folks from West Africa and other folks who are going through immigration process as well, which means that there's a possibility that this ICE raid is targeting black people. And again, going back to the earlier point, this is a racist process that we're seeing happen, being manifested by the highest office of this land. But we live in a society that has checks and balances, and we're going to ensure that checks and balances are in place, and and people can do that. So being safe, this, as Alec just mentioned, this is not the time to be fearful of just the news and everything. This is the time to know your rights, how to protect yourself, how to ensure that you have a plan. And that's another thing about, we talk about having a plan. The plan means knowing that even if you're arrested, how to reach people, how to have people know what's happening. We know ICE agents are driving unmarked cars. That you can't really tell who they are. So just being safe and being aware of what's your area, and just being available to yourself to know that you can follow those guidelines as well. Is there anybody? Yeah.
Could you give more information on what has happened so far? Have there been any arrests so far? You mentioned detention. A couple people have been detained. Can you just give more details?
Yeah. So I think you guys can add to it. I think basically right now we know that escalation has increased. We know individuals have been picked up over last week and up to this week. It's hard to know an actual number because the federal government actually does not share the data for days on end. We don't know where those people might be. The shorter detentions, I think even Fox News caught someone who I think was over the weekend who was being talked to by or detained at a period of time. Is there any?
I guess I would say that we have seen over the past year a significant change in the manner and number of ICE agents and their delegates from other federal agencies moving throughout the community for enforcement, being able to make traffic stops, looking, going to houses, stopping by places where immigrants appear to be. So how does that happen? Exactly what Jelani was saying. It's based on appearance or accent. This enforcement, these are just, it's about what you look like and what you sound like. One of the things I wanted to mention in response to the how to stay safe question, some of our colleagues at an organization called Human Rights First have developed an app that people can install on their phones. It's called Ready Now, and it is a way to do some safety planning for yourself and your family, and to set up an alert system to your lawyer and to your family and to child care providers, whoever you need to send an alert out that's pre-populated if you are being detained. That's something that I've installed myself because I need that protection as well. It's something that we're encouraging our clients and family and friends to have downloaded and installed as well, so that if detained, that's known. As Jelani said, if a person is taken into custody by federal immigration enforcement agents, there is not a roster, a jail roster that you can quickly look at to see where a person is. There is an online detainee locator system that sometimes is updated and sometimes is not, effectively disappearing people when they are taken into custody. It's often very difficult to make contact with people or know where they are. So having that alert sent out to family or friends is something that you can do, and having that set up is something that can keep people calm and know they have a plan. They probably will never have to press that button, but you've got that plan in place.
Specifically to the Somali community, though, have there been people picked up? I'm not really asking you broadly over the last year.
Yeah, at this point, I think
Yeah,
anecdotal reports are here, but
We have, some have reached out to our
Right.
office, family members of individuals who have been picked up on our ICE detention facilities in the
That
state.
means arrested by ICE.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And putting it in context, this is one amongst many. That we are pivoting from one group to another in this, and at the moment, the spotlight is on Somali American
Did you get any
community.
sense if those people who have reached out have, if they have any criminal charges, or
No.
if for some it could just be because they're undocumented?
So far, what we know of the individuals, and obviously there's a lot we don't know, none of those individuals that we know had any criminal history. They were just going through the legal process. And, and it's possible that some of those individuals were hopeful with their process. It's hard to tell at this moment right now. And then going back to the earlier point, going to a home, a Somali home, and maybe finding one person who may be going through a legal process means that you're separating that person from the rest of their family, who are either citizens or born here. They're all citizens pretty much. So that's true to what's happening here.
And because I was over at CAIR-MN Mall this morning, and a lot of the stores are just closed down. It seems like people are maybe just scared to go out into the community. What have you been hearing?
That's true. People are concerned about activity. Things are just shock right now, and this is one of the reasons why we're here today, to kind of remind people about their rights and also remind people what they can do to stay safe. So at this moment right now, there's a lot on social media, and we want to remind folks out there, please go after information that is coming from credible sources, organizations like us, and your attorneys, and make sure you know your rights. That doesn't change. The basic facts about remaining silent and not opening the door, these are things that you can do all the time. So we know that our community is scared, and it's unfortunate because, like I said, majority of us are U.S. citizens. Some of us even born here. It's disappointing, and we know that this rhetoric and this attack against our community not only is it unfair, but it's really weaponizing this fear against our community, and I think most Americans in this country, no matter what political stand you live in, they can tell that there's something wrong. And I'm going to go back to an earlier point that I mentioned in the previous press conference. I'm also interested in knowing, those who are possibly benefiting from these continuous targeting of the Somali American community and the agendas that are behind that I believe are also being played. That's why it's important for us that we do not have a political football for this community, and I feel like that is how it's happening. Somali Americans are just like any other community. They have Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, Independents, and people of everything, people who switch around every year. So this idea that we are a single community with a single voice or a single monolithic view is absolutely wrong.
And could you talk about how, because there have been some Republican candidates, and I'm not sure what Trump has also said in the past, maybe try and court Somali voters. What do can you talk about how you think these comments will affect?
They will affect. The silence against the act that an individual criminal act represents an entire community and not say that that's wrong. We are a community. I think majority of Somalis are actually somewhat independents, or at least that's what I think. But that means politics in America, elections matter, and they come down to fractions of votes. So I think that's important. I think the question we need to ask ourselves is this: most of you have been reporting about these fraud cases. Why hasn't been the first story that came out this story? We were expecting that. We've seen it in the past. Our community has been targeted for everything. Whenever somebody does something, the entire community is blamed. But this is not new. This attack is not new. But for 3 years, the local GOP leaders did not do that, rightfully so. So why are all of a sudden now they're acting like that this is a Somali issue when it's not? And so those are real questions to ask them, and for them to recognize that that this is unfair. And now I'm deeply concerned for my community. We have the majority of attacks against mosques in the nation here. We are also a working class community, poor, still sending some money back home to families, working through the challenges of living, and we know that right now that we are dealing with potential recession and challenges economically, and I am deeply concerned that this impact and some of the impacts that it'll have, even though I know my community is extremely resilient, this is unfair. And so Minnesotans need to stand up and to tell the truth. And those who are silent, I think we will know where they stand.
Jelani, we've seen and heard a lot of comments on social media that say if someone is here illegally, they should be deported. What are your thoughts on those comments?
You know, I think the only person who can say that is a Native American. Most Native Americans will welcome everybody. So, you know, this idea that people are illegal is just, you know, I think we are at a moment where if you ask most Americans, you know, they understand what immigration is. Everyone has an immigrant story, except the forced enslavement of African Americans who didn't have a choice, and the Native American here who this is their land and this is the places that their ancestral existed. So this is the oldest debate about immigration in this country. Both Democrats and Republicans have failed this issue. You can go to a rural city in any part of America, but here in Minnesota, and you will find that the nurses are undocumented, your factory workers are undocumented, your grocery workers are undocumented. Those who are building those homes and putting the pipe on the floor are undocumented, but they pay taxes, and their children are growing up in an America where they have a future. And so this goes against everything who we are. You know, President Trump is married to an immigrant, you know, and his family also immigrated here one way or the other. So I think this is an attack to try to divide us, to win political points. And here's the thing, these rhetoric, we know how wrong they are, and they eventually will fail because they cannot sustain. And in this moment, we're going to choose love, not hate. And that's one thing we want to encourage people to do. So weaponizing ICE to target black Somali immigrants, this is not immigration policy. This is racism being directed from the president's office.
Jelani, can you speak to what outreach efforts look like for members of the community who don't speak English? And I'm just kind of curious generally how language barriers interact.
Yeah, so we have a lot of, in fact, some of that has been challenging for us. There's a lot of outlets on social media that our community trusts, Somali media and others who have historically provided continuous information engagement. We'll use those. A lot of our people are connected to us. People also even listen to national, international broadcasts like BBC and others who provide you know, information in language. So those outlets are part of that. But what we are doing, what we have historically done, is go to the grassroots. And those are our community organizations, our mosques, and community centers that are significantly also rooted, embedded in our community. So our engagement will continue. We'll continue to remind people of not about just you know, these information with the about them to protecting them on ICE, but also everything else. We also are worried about the hate on social media and some acts around that, and so we're monitoring all of that right now.
Is that like illegal or unconstitutional just to take people in if they are citizens and just to, you know, they later have to show, like if they're not carrying their passport on themselves but they're being picked up, like is there anything wrong with that?
So the U.S. immigration law has broad authority, but it's not unlimited. And one fundamental tenet of it is that the U.S. cannot deport a U.S. citizen. That is illegal. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. We know it happens because we don't always have our documents on us. We don't always know our citizenship status because we don't have a clear, fair, accessible, understandable immigration policy. We have an immigration policy that really is premised on exclusion and expulsion, not on making sure that we have fair ways and accessible ways, predictable ways for people to come here, and ways that you can correct mistakes if a clerical error happens, all of those things. For a U.S. citizen to be detained by ICE and thrown into immigration detention is going to result, I think, in civil rights claims. And I think those have been successful so far. Those take a while, of course. Lawsuits are not a remedy for the harm that's done. But certainly, you know, anyone who who is a U.S. citizen and can prove that doesn't want to spend days or weeks or months in an ICE detention center somewhere around the country while they scramble to prove that. So if people have their passport card or their enhanced ID, they're able to prove that they're a U.S. citizen. You can hopefully avoid that. That is something that's really important. People who have documentation or people who are in the process of getting documentation also are here, known to the government and going through a lawful process. And the dichotomy of who is illegal and who is not is really just a false one. There is a deportation process. If you don't have status, the government can put you in deportation proceedings, allege you're being here in violation of the law, prove that. You can raise a defense to that if there is one available to you under law. And those defenses are important. They include protection from being deported to a place where you fear persecution or torture on account of your identity. Defenses include being separated from your family if you've lived here an exceptionally long time and your deportation would cause exceptional and extremely unusual hardship to those family members. Those are important defenses, and you have to have a process that's accessible for those. We are seeing diminishment of that because of increased detention. When you are detained and moved from place to place, you don't have access to your attorney, you don't have access to your evidence, you are in a place that you don't want to be in a detention center, and it is hard to plan and mount a defense at that point. So it's very important for people right now to plan, to take a look at their own immigration status and their own immigration case. If they're in proceedings, know what their steps are. If they could be put into deportation proceedings, know what defenses they may have and get the evidence ready for that. If they don't have that, they are not going to be successful in defending against deportation, and they can and will be ordered deported. So that readiness is going to be really important to making sure people access what the law allows them to do and remain in status if they are.
Giovanni, how many undocumented Somalis roughly live in Minnesota?
It's a number we don't know. It's hard to put, but it's a very insignificant number compared to what we see in the larger other communities.
Like thousands or tens of thousands?
No,
or less?
no, not even there.
And just,
And I know.
I know I can't hold you to a specific number, but
I
I'm just
think
trying to
less
get
than
the big
1,000
picture.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even think a few hundred is probably a good fair estimate.
You talked a lot about the importance of not panicking, knowing your rights. Can you talk about why that's a message you're trying to hit?
Because I think that the strategy by this administration is to create panic. We've seen that, the way that they operate, the way that they present information, and obviously right now we're having a president who is refusing to stop demonizing an entire community, some who voted for him. And it just seems to be this is the case. And naturally people who are immigrants and even when you feel targeted, there's a sense of reaction, natural reaction people have. And one of the things is because they don't know the law, they don't understand everything, and so when you know your rights and what they can and they cannot do and how to keep yourself safe, this should calm the nerves. And also, there is a lot of sensation on social media. People are sharing old videos and new videos, and people are kind of like trying to grab this information. Some people who just want followers are trying to create false stories. People are sending wrong things to tip lines. We're hearing a lot of really just noise as part of these announcements, and so that's another part of the fear that exists. So less social media, more credible information, and most importantly, just know you have a plan, you know your rights, and I think this is critical, and make sure you check in with your immigration attorney, especially if you need that. And for the broader community, those who are like, I'm saddened, I'm disappointed, I want to help the Somali community, what can I do? Well, this is a moment for you to also know what these rights are. So you can be a voice, you can understand how to support your neighbor, how to stand up for your neighbor. And check in with your neighbor. Make sure you let them know that you're an ally, you can support them, and if you need help that they can call you. A lot of times these families and neighbors can become part of that plan that you have, that they're part of your plan to ensure that they support you. And if they know that you are someone who needs to be protected, maybe they have other tools that they could provide for you, the sanctuary states, churches, and other places that people have historically used for things like this. So this is a moment where community needs to come together, and I know we will be better off after this moment. It's because it's forcing us to actually stop and think about each other, and I hope we do that, and through that process we understand our Constitution, we understand the rights, and I think we come out of this particular moment resolved on the idea that we need to fix the immigration laws of this country. For far too long, we've heard politicians claim that they're working on it. They haven't really addressed it, and I think this is the moment that we are going to need to respond in a meaningful way. All right, thank you so much for being here today.
Nice to see you.